Hello, Menai. How are you?
Good morning, Barada Bernie.
Oh, are you well?
I'm very well, thank you. And thanks
Are
very
you
much.
excited? It's Friday.
I am
Yes.
very excited, and this is a fantastic way to finish the week. And
Yeah.
actually, this is my first LinkedIn Live ever. So
Wow.
there we go.
Well, you got it first. Well, I'm so glad your first LinkedIn Live is with
There we go.
me. You know, I am so thrilled, all of you, to have Menai Owen Jones here with me. She's an incredible lady. Now, I have to read you a bit of her accolades. I know she doesn't want me to do that. But Menai is a chartered director, consultant, and award winning social sector chief executive, and an experienced non executive director. She's also a qualified chartered director, and that she won that accolade in 2020. And for over 20 years, she's had wide service to civil society in Wales and the United Kingdom. She's also a lifelong volunteer. Yes, we love people who want to go out and give, not just take. And I'm so thrilled, Mena, that you have dedicated your life to be a volunteer. You're passionate about social change, equality, learning, and social justice. So that's why she's here. That's why I am so thrilled to have her here. She's also a fluent Welsh speaker, and she's had lived experience as being part of minoritized groups, and hers is the LGBTQ community. So, Menai, thank you so much. And let's start with you as a person. I know I've just read out your accolades, but tell me a bit about your journey, Menai.
Oh, thanks, Bernie. Yeah, it's fantastic to be here this morning. And I think, when people ask you to introduce yourself, you think, well, I do this role or I do that role. And in fact, I think I have many hats and many things. So, I'm a mum, I'm a gay woman, I'm a wife, I am a chief executive, I'm a trustee, I'm a volunteer. So I do lots of different things in my life, really. But I think you hit on it at the start that the passion that I have is for charities, for social change. And really, for me, that journey started when I was a teenager. So when I was
Yes.
19, my dad died of cancer, and it
Mm.
was an enormous life kind of changing experience for me. And I had just gone to university and all very excited, like all young people are going to university for the
Yes.
first time away from home. And then sadly, within kind of 6 months, my dad died. And so that had a profound, impact on me. But it was through that experience where my dad was cared for at a hospice in North Wales. The care they gave to me, my family, and my dad, it really inspired me to volunteer for the charity for Nightingale House Hospice. And
Ah,
then from there, I graduated from university, and then I applied for a job at the hospice. And I haven't looked back since. That was my kind of entry into the voluntary sector, my passion for charities, and I think the difference they make to people's lives and to society.
Man, I know, and I know sometimes it just seems almost cliche, doesn't it, to say something really difficult, terrible happened, and because of that, it has propelled you into great works. And sometimes people will say to others who are going through things, there is good that can come out of it. And sometimes we get a little bit frustrated when we hear that. But you cannot deny it that when you actually face certain lived experiences, it makes you acutely aware of pain, but then it also makes you empathetic. And for some of us, it makes us want to do something.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and that's what happened with you. And
Mm.
so when you as young lady in university, having certain challenges, I guess, also with your sexuality as
Mm.
well. I guess from that time
Yeah.
you had those challenges. How did you maneuver through all of that?
Yeah, thanks, Bernie. So, to give a background, so as I said, I'm a gay woman, but I grew up in Wales in the 1980s and early 90s. And, being gay was never discussed. There was no representation, as far as I was aware, on the television, on the things, in school and things like that. So it was never discussed. So for me, kind of accepting my sexuality and having the courage to be the whole of myself at work and so forth, it took me a very long time. So it wasn't until my kind of mid to late 20s that I felt I could, say to my colleagues at work that I'm gay. And it was a very difficult journey for me and for many other people who are members of the LGBTQ plus community and other minoritized groups. But, the potential that the discrimination you might face, and I have had discrimination, the prejudice, because people judge you as soon as you say you're gay, that can kind of then lead to kind of judgments and preconceived ideas. And that was really difficult, coming from a Welsh speaking community. As I said, there was no representation, and that was a very difficult period in my life, really. And it's only as I've got older and through my experiences with work, etc., that I've got the confidence, to be able to speak to you today about, a very personal experience for me.
Yes, because I'm thinking now, when you mentioned that it took you some time to be able to mention in work the whole of yourself, be open about and transparent about it, and you faced challenges, it makes me think right away of allyship. I am a big proponent of allyship in the workplace, and I must ask the question, at that time, what were the things that were happening to you that were completely opposed to any kind of allyship within your workplace?
I think firstly, not having, feeling comfortable enough to say to people that's my sexual orientation. So the fact that I didn't feel safe, that there wasn't that safe space for me. But I think, the world has changed. But since then, you still get microaggressions,
Yes.
So for example, there could be conversations about, I don't know, kind of men or things like this, where I have no kind of contribution to make, really. So you kind of feel excluded sometimes from conversations that can happen. Often now, if I meet people, because the thing is, in my experience, you don't just come out once, you kind of constantly have to come out. And sometimes you don't want to talk about your sexual orientation or something that's private to you in the work environment, but sometimes people say to me, oh, what does your husband do? So the assumption is made before I've said anything about, that I'm married to a man. And in fact, that I'm married as well. So, those things still happen now. I think the world has changed. There's so much more to do. But I think my own experience of being part of the minoritized group and has given me empathy and inspired me to help others, so others from minoritized groups. So, for example, in my work as chief executive of the Pituitary Foundation, which I led for over 10 years, I was really passionate about the charity and the cause, because the pituitary conditions are rare, and people with rare diseases are minoritized because nobody really knows about them.
And there are hidden disabilities.
Yes, yeah. So in that sense, that gave me, I'm not saying I understand, or, I wouldn't even, say that at all, but I think it gives me, I can draw from my experience of what it can feel like to, to be part of a minoritized group. So from that work, obviously, I've been supporting Race Council Cumbria in terms of trying to tackle racial inequalities in Wales, etc. So I try and do different things in terms of allyship as well, because I think this is what we need, is that interconnectedness, isn't it?
Yes,
and
that's how we actually got back in touch with each other, because we've known each other for years now, but then we're back in touch now through your work with Race Council Cumbria. And we were talking earlier on, before we came on the live, about all the fantastic things that happened during the last October here, Black History Month, but we have Black History 365 in Wales, yes? And we're talking about just how far ahead we believe that Wales is in the agenda, the diversity and inclusion agenda, in allyship. And we were talking about just how much the Welsh government, those who are in authority, because those are the ones in authority, that's the whole essence of allyship. It's those who have the influence, those who have the privilege, those who have the power, that have the responsibility to come alongside. So could you just share from your perspective working with the Race Council Cymru? I know how I feel about all the great work that's been done, but you are also on the Senate. You're an independent advisor to the Senate Commission as well,
Yeah.
aren't you? So you
Yeah.
have you can see both sides of what's happening, and so just tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been a trustee, recently retired, but I was a trustee for 3 years of Race Council Cymru. And, the work that Race Council Cymru has done amongst other leading ethnic minority organisations in Wales, and people with lived experience to drive forward, the adoption of an anti-racist action plan, I think is fantastic.
Yes,
With the vision of an anti-racist Wales.
yes,
I think it's by 2030, is it off the top of my head? So I think the drive, the support from Welsh Government is fantastic. And of course, what's needed to be seen now is action, and
yes,
action across public services and across organisations in Wales, to make sure that, that vision is realised. So, it's fantastic to see that work
yes.
that
Oh,
Wales has
honestly,
been
because
doing.
we were just talking about, when we've had to go to so many different events that were held in celebration of Black History, of the Windrush 75 years anniversary, and so on. And whether it was a great or a small event, Welsh Government was there represented at a very high level. People in higher authority were there. We had the Prince and Princess of Wales down through the work of Race Council Cymru. But I remember when I was there, because I was one of the few people who had the privilege of being at that meet and greet, that Professor Uzo Iwobi did
Yeah.
mention somebody from the higher authority. And I was trying to remember the name. Please forgive me, Uzo, and I can't remember the name of this lovely lady that you had such gratitude for, who actually ensured that whole event happened, and facilitated the Prince and Princess of Wales to come down and meet us grassroots people,
Yeah.
and to see the trailer for the documentary, the Windrush documentary,
Yes. Yeah.
celebrating the Windrush elders here
Yeah.
in Wales. It was just incredible. And Menai, you were also given an award. I'm sure of that as well.
Yes, yes, I was very
Yes,
fortunate to be given an award by Black History Wales recently for my contributions to
yes,
race equality. But I don't feel I deserve the award, but I'm very honoured to receive the award. And I see, the work that needs to be done by all of us in terms of driving forward an anti-racist Wales, but also the broader agenda for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think linking back to what you were talking about, people in certain roles and leadership roles, I think we
yes,
all have a responsibility in those roles, that leadership, at board level, and
yes.
that we can change things. We are the people who can help set agendas, who set the priorities and so forth. So I think we all collectively, even if we do something small, we could all help to make change happen and to make sure that our organisations do become more inclusive.
Exactly. And we also should not shy away from taking responsibility ourselves, and to be in positions where we represent. Because
Yeah.
recently, I think we were also together, Menai, at the Senate, when Women Equality Network,
Oh,
and
yes.
in association with Elect Her,
Mm.
launched the We Belong Here day at the Senate. Oh,
Mm.
it was incredible. And then there as well, there was so much support from the Welsh Government ministers at different levels. It was a showcasing all the various talented people that we have there, and supporting women and encouraging women to get elected. Because if you don't get elected, if you don't get in that space, then you will not be able to have a voice for
Mm.
those who you want to represent. So that's the other thing. It's
Mm.
one thing for us to sit and say, oh, yes, the Welsh Government and those few there are helping. But how about us
Mm.
equipping ourselves and encouraging those that are there to also come up in the ranks and
Yes.
and take position that way they can represent. No, I'm not sure, Menai, maybe you would know better. What's the ratio of women to men in the Senate?
I don't know off the top of my head the situation now.
Yes,
I don't think it's 50-50 across the
that's
board
what
as
I was
yet.
thinking. It's
I
not
think
50.
historically, at some point in the past 20 years or so, there has been a point, but I don't think it's quite there again at the
No,
moment. And then,
no.
of course, in terms of other kind of underrepresented groups as well, obviously ethnic minority people, disabled people,
Yes,
LGBTQ people. So there is a
yes,
lot of work to do there
yes,
in public kind of office generally, isn't there, in
yes,
roles to encourage more people to feel that they can put their name forward,
yes,
and to increase representation across kind of public life in Wales. And in fact, I'm involved with, and you might be, Bernie, as well, with the Women's Equality Network mentoring scheme,
yes,
Equal
yes,
Power, Equal Voice.
yes,
And I'm a real advocate for that programme because it's cross equalities, isn't it? So
yes,
it's disabled people, LGBTQ plus people, ethnic minorities, women, gender, etc. So underrepresented groups having an opportunity to become mentees and to be matched with a mentor. And I've been a mentor now for the past, I think this is my 3rd year. But again, I think this is where the leadership duty is, that you should, help the next generations and make things better. And, it's a privilege to have a leadership position. And therefore, I think it's, important that you do try and help somebody else, to develop and have opportunities as well.
exactly. That is so true. And I myself, I'm an Equal Power, Equal Voice mentor. It's my
Brilliant.
second
Yeah.
year, and I am going into my second year, and I just think it's an incredible opportunity. In fact, I'm meeting my mentee after this live.
Oh, there we go.
Yes,
That's good.
I'm looking forward to it. I just went into my book because I know I'd
Oh,
taken
yes.
some facts down, and there are 26 women members now, 26
Oh,
female members in the Senate,
okay.
um, which is 43% of all members. It's better than I recall. I thought it was 1/3, but it's actually that. But what I also found, the research I also found, is that we're not having the women going for the roles. It's one thing to say we're not there, but why aren't we there? Why aren't we taking that stand? I think what it is as women is that we discount ourselves and dismiss ourselves, and we laugh about it. But it is true that if you'll find a role that a man probably has 2 of the 5 or 6 attributes, and he'll go for it. You find another role where a woman has 4 of the 5 attributes, and she says, no, I can't do it. So
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, why is it that we dismiss ourselves out of hand? We discount ourselves from the positions. We need to just go for it. But is it because of how we actually support women or not support women? Is it the things that we tell ourselves as women that's causing us not to? What do you think, Menai?
So I think schemes like the When Wales mentoring scheme
Yes.
is critical. Those types of schemes should be funded and there should be more of them. I think representation as well is so important. Seeing women in roles of influence is important. So you think, oh, maybe I could do that one day. But of
Yes.
course, the job is never done, is it? And there's so much more we need to do, and we keep having, we have to kind of lead the change that's needed. We can't ever be complacent or ever think that for example, gender equality is done. We know it's not.
Yes.
We keep
No,
having to champion that, and
it's never done. The disability agenda is never even close to being truly tackled. When you hear about how many disabled people there are, and the kind of services that they still don't have, and the kind of accessibility issues in places that they go to. In fact, I have heard about people who are going to an awards ceremony where they are a recipient, and as a disabled person, they have to enter through the kitchen because there is not any access.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
we
Yes.
and I know we have older buildings and so on, and I know it takes a lot of uh, time and money, and there are also certain buildings that have certain what do you call them, restrictions or so on, about because they are protected buildings. But come on, I think you have to measure, to balance it out. You know, can't we change these whatever bylaws or whatever they are, covenants, to come up with the times that we are in?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of thing. But I'm talking, I mean, we talked earlier on about my book,
Yeah.
and you said you read it. Don't know how you managed to take the time to do that, but I'm very thrilled
I
that you
did
said
indeed.
you read it. And I thought, since you read it, to ask you, is there anything in the book that resonated with you that you thought you wanted to just share?
Well, I think it's a really accessible book. I think some of the area of equality or equity, diversity, and inclusion can maybe be perceived as quite, and can be complicated, etc. And I think your book distills the information in an accessible way, and I think that's what's needed. I don't think promoting DEI or EDI should be just the role of the leader of an organization, for example. It should be
No.
everybody's role. So it's
Yes.
not just the equity, diversity, and inclusion officer's role or, the
Yes.
board's role. It should be broader than that. And I think there's a lot of education needed. And I think your book is, it breaks that down and explains things, I think, really easily. I think I support, to be honest, so you're not going to get any challenge from me today.
Yes, I was saying to you, I needed to challenge it.
No challenge, sorry. Yeah, so try not to do groupthink here. But no, I think the concepts, I fully support in your book. I think the concept of allyship is really important. And, understanding your own privilege.
Yes.
If I look at myself, I can see my own privilege. So, for
Mhm,
example, my colour of my skin, so I'm a
mhm,
white person, it gives me privilege. My education,
mhm,
I've been very lucky through my education, been able to go to university. Things like my family background. I mean, I had quite an ordinary upbringing. However, I had a loving, family home, stable home.
mhm,
And now, I'm very privileged to do the jobs that I do. So whether it's chief executive of an organisation or to be a trustee, these roles bring great responsibility, but they are privileges. And
mhm.
so, I think your concept of allyship and how we should use our privilege to help others, I think, definitely resonated with me from the book.
Honestly, thank you so much. I'm glad you said that about it being accessible, because that's the real intent of me writing this book. And there's nothing worse than your real intent to go unaccomplished in any project. And I really wanted people to think, yes, it's not that difficult though, is it? Oh, okay, right, thank you, Bernie, for making, just simplifying this whole thing and making it something that I can actually touch. Yes, I can do this. I can understand, as you said, about privilege, because there's an exercise in here, that a simple little exercise where people can realize just how privileged they are. And I have had to say to people myself, I'm a Black woman, but I have privilege. Similar to you, I am from a very good socioeconomic background, from a very educated, very prominent family in my context back in Jamaica. I I am educated. I am not obese. I am not disabled. There are so many things that I have now in my work life. I am sitting on boards. I'm invited several times. I'm going back again at the end of the month to speak at the House of Lords. I've spoken at the United Nations. I have found myself in places and spaces where other people can't, and I welcome there. So yes, I have privilege. So why am I going to think, oh, those white people or those white gray men in their suits, they're stopping me? Before I take my time to do that, I ask myself, what am I doing in this place and this space that I have found myself in to help others? And how about looking for another person, a white woman who is ginger, who comes from the valleys, who has an accent that other people don't want to hear her? How about trying to just be an ally to her instead of trying to see how I can step on her head because she's white? We've got to change the way we think. We've
Yeah.
really got to open our eyes.
Absolutely. And I think in particular as women, we really should, and I try my best to, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but support other women, to
Yes,
support,
you
and to
do.
see the
You do.
equity, the barriers that different groups of people might face.
Yes, exactly. And not have hostility. Another friend of mine, Kodika Pari, she has so many gems that she says, and one of her gems is, come get down from your soapbox and pull up a chair. And I think that's what I wanted to this book
Yeah.
to do, is to foster this kind of mindset that says, let's not be at each other's throats here, because we all are a part of the problem in some ways, and we all can be a part of the solution in some ways. Let's open up our eyes to see what parts of certain stories have we listened to that has actually informed the way we think about things, and the way we respond to people, and the way we assume about different things, and then say, okay, have I been, infected a little bit by a bias? Oh, okay. Let me rethink. Let's
Yeah.
let's check the mindsets.
Yeah.
Mindset is so
Yeah.
important.
I think then you make me think about the word openness,
Yes.
to be self-reflective and to look at yourself and say, okay, maybe I didn't quite get that right, or I don't know enough about this, or
Yes.
whatever. So, but also acknowledging that there is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, racism is systemic. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be open to seeing, okay, these are issues and we need to address them. These are significant issues for people, and we need to take action, look at what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
to make the world more equal,
Mm-hmm.
as it should be.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. When you say that, it just makes me want to ask you, go harking back to your journey, because you're a social entrepreneur. You've done so much work within Wales and the United Kingdom. Would you mind telling me, Menai, what have you seen as some clear two things? First, some clear challenges that I would say, I want to ask you about the challenges that men would face, because we tend not to think about the men. And I heard something recently, a statistic recently, that said that the suicide is I think it's the number one killer of men in the UK under 50.
Yes, yes, yeah. Shocking, isn't it? Really sad.
That tells me that there is suffering going on,
Yes.
and nobody is going to kill themselves if they feel like they belong. Nobody's going to kill themselves if they feel like they matter, or that they have value, and that they have a future. That goes right to the heart of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And then we're talking about men here. When based on your experience, what comment would you give to something like that? What would you say?
Yeah, I think.
And I know it's not an expert opinion now,
No,
so I
I'm not.
know it's
No,
not
I'm just
that's just
thinking.
your view, right?
Well, I think we need to bring everybody along with us in the journey, don't we? Which is
Yeah,
what you say as well, around we go together, we don't go at all. And
yeah.
um, I think, we have to work collaboratively and work together and recognize the different challenges that different people have,
Mm-hmm,
and make space for those challenges. So, for
mm-hmm.
example, the issues that I face as a gay woman are very
Yes,
different to somebody else.
yes.
But there has to be space for that. But then there's also space for listening to
Mm-hmm,
others, their
mm-hmm,
experiences, and validating those experiences, I think.
mm-hmm,
Um, and so I think that requires empathy
mm-hmm,
and collaboration. And I think, we need more empathy in the world,
Mm-hmm.
listening to other people, thinking about what's it like to be in your shoes. And I think then it leads to the word equity, really, and realizing that some people's circumstances, whatever that might be, are, might mean they need a bit of an extra hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is, I'd say to that, we have to make space, we have to listen, and we have to bring everybody with us.
Yes.
So, when I think about International Women's Day,
Yes.
I do think, well, we need to include the men, because we need to educate and develop allies, and there are men out there who are allies to us, to
Oh,
women. So, I think it's that really that we need to look at, and how we educate others and bring people with us. So,
exactly. There are two things you said there. You talked about educating and so on, and empathy, and you mentioned collaboration, and then you said to me the magic thing is including the men as well,
mm,
because we make assumptions
mm,
about men, and quite rightly so. It's understandable that we do, but we've got to be aware that if you have a group of people that you believe are in a position of privilege and power all the time, then you do not put them in mind for to be people that you need to support. You need to see if they're okay, and so they are there, and they have to be strong. They have to deal with their hidden disabilities. They have to deal with their hidden sexual orientation, their hidden neurodiverse issues, whatever part of the spectrum they're on, because they're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be the ones in charge. Who makes room? For us as women, I heard recently somebody say, women will come together and they'll talk about things that are affecting them. When men come together, they're only allowed to talk about sports or some big deal they're doing. So what they're thinking and how they're feeling, it doesn't really come up. And I have to applaud. There's a gentleman, Dan Stanley. He's Rachel Flanagan, Mrs. Bouquet's husband, and he has an organization called Better Men.
all right.
Yes, and he coaches senior male leaders, and he has like expeditions where they go out and do walks, and and it's like coaching walks, and it's just incredible. And I think we need more of that kind of support for our men,
Yeah.
because that's why they're killing themselves, because they feel that they cannot afford to let it slip and to be human. And what I want to say in this book is we are all human. Let's take it back to our humanity. Let's take it back to the basic thing of let's look out for each other. And
Yes. Yeah.
that includes everybody when we say in that each other is every one of us.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of, mental health as well, at least I think at least now, there are more open conversations, which there should be, about mental health, etc. Whereas you go back 20 years ago, and it was probably a taboo, wasn't it? Nobody really talked about their mental health. But
Yeah.
more, again, needs to be done, doesn't it? And to acknowledge that mental health is as equally important as physical health.
Yeah.
And we should be talking openly about, mental health as well. So
That's right. And I know we talk about mental health, and I know some people are lauded and applauded for mentioning their mental health challenges. But I wonder, maybe you might be able to tell me from your own personal experience working within the voluntary sector. I wonder if people are not getting any backlash from, being honest and transparent about their mental health challenges. What do you see in and around?
yeah, I haven't really got an informed view on that, to be honest.
Mm.
I would hope not, and in the sense, the more people that talk about their mental health, the more open and accepted it becomes, and it should
Yes.
be. So I don't really have myself kind of experience
Mm,
of that. But again, linking back to leadership, we have roles as leaders within our organisations to champion well-being, don't we, of people,
mm,
which includes mental health, and to make sure that that mental health is visible, well-being, and we actually follow through on the plans, the ideas or whatever that we have, that actually there's
mm.
action behind that. So I think I'm sure there might be some backlash,
Mm.
and that's very sad if that is the case.
Yeah, I
But
don't know of any myself personally here, but
yeah.
I know my brother, my younger brother, he was very successful journalist on the mainstream broadcasting house in Jamaica, and he had a psychotic break at one point whilst he was in work, and then he moved away to the United States and had a very successful career there, and then he returned to Jamaica, and that was brought up nearly 20 years after that came up. He wasn't told when he went for an interview, but he was told afterwards that that psychotic break, how many years back, came up, and they had to literally fight for him to get the role. He did get the, it was a really good position, but you see, that's the kind of thing that sometimes obtains and still obtains in certain places and spaces. And so we shouldn't that shouldn't happen,
No, yeah.
but it does happen, and I hope it doesn't happen that often. you know
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you said, action should be taken to address if any instances like that happen,
yeah,
in the workplace.
but that was not here in the UK
Mm,
context.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So
yes,
you had your conference in September, and you're
yes.
looking for the next one next year. You're already planning.
Oh, yes, 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 Menai. It was really good. And thank you so much for coming out as well, and for supporting. Yes, so it was, again, just a testament to the support that you get from the Welsh government. The First Minister made it, despite, and we had a little bit of a laugh because it was the first day of the 20 mile per hour. So coming in, and he was stuck in traffic for half an hour. And he had a little chuckle about it. And whatever people want to say, I don't listen. All Welsh lives matter. I know what people say about Welsh lives matters and about the speed limit and so on, and that is so true. And I know that there are other concerns. I am not here to say yay or nay about that, to make any comment on it. But what I want to say is he was human enough to make a chuckle and a joke about him at his own expense that
Yeah.
morning, and he supported. So did Jane Hutt, Honorable Jane Hutt, Minister for Social Justice, and Vaughan Gethin, Minister for the Economy. We also had Cabinet Member Jules Sangani there as well, and we had a host of other, support from the BBC to S4C, the banks, the and so on. But you know who we had more than anything else? The Society for the Blind, Sight Life, the Deaf Society, the Diverse Cymru, you know,
Right.
I can't even, you name them. Listen, I can't even recall it, but it's the underground grassroots organizations, Women's Equality Network,
Yeah.
Caratech, who are we know the Caratech story, but they also they went out like champions. They sponsored the Gender Equality Zone,
Yeah.
and they
No, fantastic.
and they
Yeah.
made it accessible to Women's Business Club. They made it accessible to Bauzo, and they made it accessible to Women's Equality Network as well, Equal Voice. I mean, I want to just take this moment to just say thank you so much, Cryotech, for all of what you did, and I know that the work is continuing, and it will, the legacy will live on. But in that space, we had NatWest, we had Transport for Wales. They also sponsored, and Buff and Buckland. BBC,
Mm.
everybody that could do something to make a difference, whether they sponsored or not, they came in their force. And so at the moment, what we're doing now is the task force. We're doing the
All
work,
right.
the behind the scenes work now. Yes, it's good to show up and show a force, but what we're going to do with that? What of
Mm.
it? So
Yes.
what of it now is let's get the work done. What
Mm.
came up in those zones? What discussions were there? What key item agendas we can take forward? We're going to be also doing a documentary which will showcase some of the work that was done there and some of the work that's ongoing throughout this next 12 months. And
Mm.
on September 16th in 2024,
Yeah.
we're going to be airing that. Thank you to Georgios Dimitropoulos, who is the head of the Swansea University Media Suite. He's an
Mm.
award-winning filmmaker, and he's going to be doing the documentary. He's kindly offered to do that. Menai, I know I spoke with you. He's going to be wanting to speak with you as well about all the work that you do and continue to do. So yes, it happened. I am so thrilled. And we're going to have awards as well.
Oh,
Because
fantastic.
what's the
Yeah.
point of having people doing all this work and no recognition?
Yeah.
No, people are not doing it for recognition, but we need to affirm and reward work that's well done. So that's going to be
Absolutely.
happening as
Mm.
well. And so I'm thank you for mentioning that. It was I'm so thrilled to see the diversity and inclusion agenda
Mm.
has embraced me, because it had been happening before me. But the work that I've been doing, the community, it's not community, it's we go together. We
Yes,
go
exactly.
together or
Yeah.
not at all. That
Mm.
is what is happening. So coming out of that, we have different bits of initiatives happening. One of
Mm.
them is the Master in Diversity training that's happening
Mm.
on the first one and 22nd of November. Guys, come out for allyship training. Come out
Mm.
to meet other organizations that are working within this space,
Yeah.
because community collaboration,
Mm.
support. It's not just about going, it's a silo living
Yes.
or silo working. So
Mm.
yes, so thank you for mentioning that. It's been a journey, and I'm so thrilled. Next year as well, we're taking people back to the House of Lords.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
yes, we want to go to the establishment and tell them what we're doing down here in Wales, what we're
Yeah.
doing with our anti-racist action plan,
Mm.
what we're doing with our future generations plan,
Mm.
act,
Mm.
what we do with all these various things. Come on, they need to know, because I'm telling you, we are doing stuff here in Wales that they are not doing. Not that I want to be competitive, but I'm just saying.
Absolutely. We need to fly the flag of Wales, don't we? And I think,
Yes,
from the work that you're doing, I think what I've been impressed by as well is the intersectionality approach,
yes,
but also the cross-sector working, because
yes,
we'll never solve societal challenges, as you said, the word silos, so the private sector doing this, the public sector doing that, the voluntary
yes,
sector doing this over here. Well, it's all so interconnected,
yes,
but we don't have the spaces, we don't have enough spaces, in my own opinion,
yes,
to bring the different sectors together. And I think that's what you've done with your first conference. And that we look, it doesn't matter which sector you're part of, this EDI agenda is part of everyone's work.
yes.
And so I just wanted to kind of congratulate you on that. And I think that's more what's needed, that we're sharing experiences, we're sharing practices, we're maybe sharing what's not worked, and being honest about that, but looking at what we can do to rectify things as well. So I think that's really good.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So we're coming into the last 15 minutes of the hour. Can you imagine? Can you believe that? I remember when we were speaking before, we're like, an hour? Yes, it goes really quickly,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
especially when you're talking about things that really, really matter. So I wanted to give you an opportunity now. So we've talked about your journey, what happened at the beginning that
Mm.
actually was the catalyst for you wanting to make a difference, because somebody made a difference for your dad. Yes.
Mm.
And
Mm.
how it just kind of propelled you into the being a social, I love the social executive, it's social chief exec. I love it. The wording. Is that the wording? Let me just see, because I thought this is really cool. Uh, social, where is it? Social sector chief
Oh
exec.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I love that because we talk about social entrepreneurship, but I really love the fact that you've made it clear what you're about. It's not just about, entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurship and it's positioning with a purpose to make
Yeah.
a difference in society. And that has come through your own pain, overcoming your own challenges. So I just wanted to ask you, as we're coming into the end of this segment, and I'm going to spotlight you, I just want you to share with us. Just open your heart and share with us. And that's one thing you want us to take away. If we forget everything else that we've listened to throughout this hour, what do you want us to remember? So let me spotlight you now, and let's
Yeah.
share that for us.
I think really it's about why you do what you do. What is your purpose? And for me, I know my purpose. I'm so motivated and passionate about the voluntary sector, about social change. And so I think it's, again, a privilege to have work with purpose, and whether that's paid work or voluntary work. And so I think it's taking that message, think about why you do what you do, and be motivated and be passionate, and I think do what you can to make that difference, even if it's a small difference, really.
Awesome. That is it. Do what you can to make that difference, even if it's a small difference. You know why? It's important. It's this whole concept of the ripple effect.
Yes.
Now, we might think, oh, I've only just done this one thing, but what's the ripple effect? When you put that little stone in the water and you watch it go, do not despise the little thing that you can do. And that little thing that you can do could be something as simple as recommending somebody for a promotion who you think would not otherwise be recommended.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be providing some amount of mentorship,
Yeah.
giving some of your time to share with others who look like you, who are from the same way of thinking, orientation, community, whatever it is that you are in, who would not otherwise find somebody like you who they can relate to inspire and encourage them. It could be that little thing of taking time to watch a documentary on certain types of people and their experiences,
Yeah.
reading that book, sitting down and having a conversation, learning, opening our minds. There is this saying that the mind of man, once expanded, cannot assume its original position.
Yes.
So we need to think about mind expansion, but most importantly, we need to think about what it is that we cause to expand our minds.
Yeah.
Because if we expand our minds in the wrong direction, we'll have a lot of difficulty getting it back on track. So we need to manage our minds and be responsible for the things that we listen to, and be also responsible for ensuring that we don't suffer from this thing. I think the echo chambers, Menai.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. We need to make time and spend time with people who are different to us, to listen to their experiences. Um, and that's how you learn, isn't it? And I think that's how you build cohesion between different groups, because people get to understand and have or more of an insight really into different people's experiences. So absolutely, and I think that's more what's needed, really, across our workplaces and schools as well. Children need to spend time with people and children who are different to them, and that's how we learn tolerance, isn't it, and an openness to difference.
Yes, exactly. So, you said that, and I just thought about my grandson. That story, my grandson. I don't know if you got a chance to see the article I wrote, where he's 5 years old, and his mother was told by the school that a little boy said to him that people with brown skin smell like poo, and Elijah didn't even tell his mom. But the school said, this is, and they were going to go like raging. And she said, no, 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 I'll get his grandmother in. just signed me up to talk about allyship. As I'm going to go into a school, and they said they're embracing it. After half time, I'm going in to teach them about what what to do, what not to say, how to be kind, and so it's incredible. So I'm going to be going in, bringing in books and so on. So yes, it's about teaching them from their but he didn't even remember it. But it could be in the psyche, so we've got to be careful. Yes. So we're coming into our last few seconds now, Menai. Thank you so much. It's been incredible. Don't go away, Menai. You stay with me, guys. Please share. Add your thoughts and have a fantastic rest of the weekend. Today's Friday, guys. Enjoy.
Thanks very much.
Bye bye.
See you out loud.